Hello everyone, this is CounterYolo, bringing you another video talking about Star Trek Online and the Age of Discovery expansion coming out tomorrow. Now in this video I'm going to go over a little bit of comparisons between the couple of Discovery starships that are currently playable inside the game as of tomorrow. I'll go over the starter ship as well as the prototype Walker and the other three Tier 6 ships inside of the game, as well as a tiny little rant on the best fleet starships for tanking inside the game as well. And I'll conclude with whether or not you should get the C-Store on Discovery Starter Pack. Like normal, the description is going to include all the time links for this stuff in there too. Alright, so to start off with, as you can see very clearly here, all three of these starter ships, the Miranda class for Federation captains, the Pioneer class for TOS captains, and the Malachowski class for Discovery captains all have the exact same stats. However, if you look at the Admiralty system, the Admiralty system treats them slightly differently in terms of their raw stats, which is interesting, but for realistic playthrough stuff, this doesn't really matter. But it's just there for your reference, just so that you all know. When it comes to comparing these different things to the prototype Walker, we'll start with Tier 1. For bridge after seating, this is different than what you'll see on the blog. This is because this is what's actually available to you at Tier 1. Whenever you see the different tiers going up, you'll see a different hull and a different and a different range for these bridge after seatings themselves. But at Tier 1, this is what's available to you. You still have an edge in terms of an extra bridge after seat that you don't have with the other ships. You have an extremely high number of consoles, even though that matters a little bit less at the Tier 1 and Tier 2 ranks. But if you really want to be overpowered, you could make yourself extremely overpowered then. In addition, the turn rate versus these guys is a little bit lower. The beginning turn rate for a lot of the beginning ships inside the game is ridiculously high. There are very few ships that actually have a high turn rate like this when it comes to cruisers. Now, other types of ships do have a higher turn rate than this whenever you don't have cruiser commands on them. For ships with cruiser commands, this is very, very high. Of course, your beginning ship doesn't have cruiser commands because you're just starting to learn the game. But yeah, just as another clarification, the prototype Walker is available to Romulan captains. It's just that you have to align with the Federation first before you can get this ship. So that is something to be aware of. But once you align with the Federation, then as a Romulan captain, you could use this ship instead of a warbird if you don't like warbirds, or you want cruiser commands like I do. Also, as a note, even though the TOS Constitution is inferior to the prototype Walker, don't discount this ship. With this particular ship, you are able to get levelless TOS phasers from it, which if you're wanting just to level up this ship and not worry about your weapons, this is a good option as well to buy this ship as well, alongside getting this pack for this ship, to get those phasers so you could actually have 7 levelless phasers on your ship just basically starting out after your beginning mission. And then you literally don't have to worry about your weapons at all until you get to the end game. When we talk about Tier 2, a couple of little things change here. All of the ensigns become lieutenants for your bridge officer seating for your prototype Walker ship. The rest of these guys also get a 4th bridge officer seat as well. And you start to see the things start to equalize a little bit more. The turn rates for these 3 ships are all the exact same. And the hit points for these guys actually start quite a bit higher than yours does. Now, once you start to get closer to level 20, this guy's going to have a higher hull than these guys, but at least starting out, this guy's going to have a significantly lower hull. And it still has a higher shield ratio. And at Tier 2, your regular cruisers finally get cruiser commands. As we start to get to Tier 3 starships, we start to see things get even closer. So, especially if you look at the C-Store Tier 3 Constellation class, it is just about on the nose the same as the prototype Walker. You're basically just down 1 tactical console, and you have an Ensign Engineering and Ensign Universal versus a Lieutenant Engineering here, but the rest of it being the exact same between these 2 ships here. The cruiser that I use here for free ships is the Temporal Ambassador Tier 3 cruiser. Who knows? Maybe that might not exist in the Age of Discovery expansion, but I assume that it probably will. And this guy is still pretty similar to this guy as well. So yeah, other than that, pretty similar and straightforward in that the Prototype Walker starts at a much lower hull, but it'll eventually get up to there too. And then finally getting to Tier 4, where the scaling stops for the Prototype Walker. Whenever you compare this stuff here, it literally has just about the exact same stats in almost every way as your Tier 4 Cruiser Galaxy class ship. Exact same bridge officer seating, exact same consoles, exact same weapon loadout. It's just that it has a lower hull and higher shields versus this guy who has much higher hull but lower shields and lower turn rate. And so yeah, I mean, like, there is still an incentive if you wanted to have cruisers the whole way through, wanted really strong cruisers, to actually still buy the Tier 4 Andromeda class cruiser, because it is still stronger than the prototype. But that's just your own personal preference. Now when it comes to Tier 6 cruisers, we skip up to the Lobi Walker class. The original Walker class that was released last year. That has a 5-3 configuration. And this thing, like, if you look at raw stats, you're gonna say that the Fleet Europa is a stronger ship than the Walker class now, which is not the case. This guy has a lower turn rate for higher hull and shields. This guy has lower hull and shields for a higher turn rate. The reserve seating is basically the exact same between the two. It's just the specialist seating that's a little bit different. This guy has a Lieutenant Commander Science Command. This guy has it as a Lieutenant Pilot and Ensign Intelligence. Consoles is the exact same though. You get this guy through Tier 5 Military, which is a bit unfortunate because it's a really cool ship. But you still can get the non-fleet version from the C-Store. However, the non-fleet version only has 2 tactical consoles, so you're really going to be hurting really badly without the fleet version. Just going to throw that out there. However, if you don't have a Tier 5 military and don't want to do exchange lobby stuff for this ship, another good alternative is the Fleet Advanced Light Cruiser. This is a very old but still very good and strong tank inside the game. It has a 4-4 weapon layout. However, since it has an 11 turn rating, it is insanely good for broadsiding. You actually can still broadside with this no problem and keep people inside that 70-degree arcs on the sides of your ship. It still has very comparable bridge officer seating to the Walker class as well, just that you have a Lieutenant Commander Universal Pilot and Lieutenant Science instead of a Lieutenant Commander Science and Lieutenant Universal Pilot. Other than that, it's basically the same, and the fact that you have 4 tactical consoles instead of the regular 3. And this guy, you're able to get with just a Tier 2 military from the Federation, which Tier 2 militaries are fairly easy to get, even for your really inactive fleets. Just going to throw that out there. But just as a comparison between these two guys, if you want a Discovery cruiser to tank, choose the Walker class. If you want a cruiser and you don't care about tanking, and you want it to be a Discovery ship, the Europa battle cruiser is going to be a better option for you overall. This ship, because this one has command distract fire, as well as it has the obfuscation screen, which is the best survival console in the entire game, the Lobi Walker class is still a stronger ship for tanking than the Europa battle cruiser. Just going to put that out there. Also, for my little tiny rant, if you're going to be a tank inside the game and have access to everything in terms of fleet and stuff, here's the ships that I would recommend for you, which is the Fleet Flight Deck Assault Cruisers. These are fairly neglected inside the game, but these are very, very good and very, very strong. They have very high hull rating and shield ratios, which if you compare versus the last slide, it's the exact same ratio as the Discovery Battle Cruiser that was just announced today. It's a very high ratio, and it's been around for a long time. It still has the 5-3 configuration with a 9-turn rating, which is still very, very high for a cruiser. And it still has very comparable and very good bridge officer seating with a Lieutenant Commander Universal that you can make a science for that gravity well that I really like. Or if you want to go more offensive, you can make this another tactical one and have a bazillion amount of tactical consoles and still do Octobat and stuff like that pretty well on the ship. These all also have 4 tactical consoles, and so these are pretty advantageous as well. Not to mention that the Romulan version of this ship has a slightly lower hull rating versus the KDF and Federation versions, which basically just have a different in-game model but exact same stats otherwise. This one has a lower hull rating, but in relation with that has a battle cloak on top of it, and still has cruiser commands. These guys only have 2 cruiser commands: command and extract fire, as well as shield frequency remodulation, which is the ones that you want for PvE and PvP if you're going to be a tank inside the game. So those are both extremely strong. So yeah, that's just my little 2 cents about the ships that, if you're a free-to-play player or not a free-to-play player and are trying to go for super endgame tanking, those are the ships that I recommend for you. Alright, so let's get back into the remaining comparison, which is the Crossfield versus the other 2. There's probably not a ton to say here. The Crossfield is insanely better than the other 2. The problem is it has a really high hull ratio combined with a really high turn rating, which outside of the Crossfield, most of your science ships are going to suffer in one of those areas, whether it has a really high hull ratio but a really low turn, or a really high turn but a really low hull ratio. Kind of unfortunate, but that's just the way it is inside the game right now. I mean, these 3 ships I'm showing right here are all perfectly good science tanks inside the game, as well as good science DPS guys inside the game. This guy is because of a particular console that makes him okay. These guys both have a high enough hull ratio to be able to withstand a lot of the beating inside the game, even when your shields go down. Unfortunately, these guys are all fairly hard to access. This guy you need to get a lockbox or exchange for. This guy you access through the C-store. This guy you need a tier 5 military to earn it. You could get the new tier 6 fleet support cruiser as well, which actually is a fairly decent science tank, and in my opinion, one of the best in the entire game. And that one only needs a tier 3 military, but you're definitely not going to hit like game-breaking numbers in terms of like DPS if you want that type of ship. Just saying, it'd be really cool if they added another science ship that I don't know, had lower turn, higher hull, or something like that inside the game too. That was earnable through fleet, but I guess we'll see in the future. In terms of whether you should be getting the Discovery Starter Pack or not, here's just some little stats here, my opinions about the past starter packs inside the game. And generally for the TLDR about this, if like these ones are worth it because if you have multiple characters, it would be a lot more affordable to get these bridge officers through just buying the starter pack, and then you could claim that this bridge officer for however many characters of that faction that you have on your account. Federation KDF starter pack is only available for console players now. This is not available for PC anymore. So PC players, sorry, you have to suffer and buy the bazillion board bridge officers that you want, or just buy them off the exchange too. It's also an option. Game Vanguard starter pack really wasn't worth it in my opinion because it didn't have a bridge officer in its starter pack. In its big pack it did, but and those bridge officers did and are pretty strong still. So, but yeah, in terms of the current Discovery starter pack, it doesn't have a bridge officer, and the inventory bank slots is only good for 1 captain, but it does have its ground weapons that are available to everyone on your account, as well as its tier 1 leveling to tier 4 Starship is available to all of your Federation and Federation aligned captains. You wouldn't really use it on a Dominion captain because they already started at level 60, and so it really wouldn't be worth it for them. But for your Federation line Romulans, this is still also pretty valuable if you don't like warbirds. So, like the reason why you would use this, first reason is if you want to have a Discovery-only Starship playthrough inside the game, buying the Discovery Starter Pack is the only way to do it, because there aren't any other Tier 2 to Tier 4 ships inside the game besides this ship. Also, this adds a ton of convenience to leveling, because you can literally just use this ship even into the near end game. And then if you're a free-to-play player, you can literally just buy this ship, and then boom, you're able to use the ship all the way through, and then slowly earn your stuff through reputation to get your free Fleet Tier 6 ship of whatever one that you're wanting. If you're getting this pack because of convenience and leveling, I would highly recommend also buying the Tier 1 TOS ship, just so you can get the level S TOS phasers for the ship as well. Also, if you're wanting this pack because, hey, I want to save fallback in case I try out a new class of starship like an escort or a science vessel, something like that, and you don't like it, well, you still have this good ship that you can fall back to and not have to pay for a lot of dilithium or pay for some Zen to like get another starship for that level. You've already invested a tiny little bit to get a starship that lasts through all those levels, so you don't have to worry about that. This is especially good for newer players to the game that are only going to get like 1 or 2 captains in total. Also, lastly, this has a survival console attached to the ship. Most of your lower level ships inside the game do not have survival consoles on them. A lot of them are very niche to maybe doing DPS or something like that, or impairments, not really for doing damage, or not really for doing survival. This, I haven't played Age of Discovery yet to really know if this thing's super strong at the end game stuff, but at least for beginning stuff, like even just the way that they describe it, it's gonna be perfectly fine for your intro into like level or like tier 1 to tier 3 missions. So yeah, overall for my verdict, for the bargain of 750 Zen for a new Federation character, if you've thought about any of these reasons over here to get this ship, it's worth it for the price. If you wait until the sale goes away and are still thinking about these reasons, I would say you need at least 2 new Federation or Federation aligned Romulan captains for this pack to be worth it. Like for instance, maybe you've always played one profession and now you want to try the other 2. Like maybe you've always done tactical because people have told you tactical's insanely the best. But maybe you want to try a new character on science and a new one on engineering, just to try out and see if it's cool. You can easily get this really solid ship and then just focus on some more and read up on stuff for ground combat maybe. But yeah, those are my like 2 or 3 cents about the current Discovery ships that are about to exist inside the game. Hopefully these comparisons have proved valuable to you all and are helping you to decide whether or not you want to buy the Discovery starter pack or not, and your other decisions for different ships inside of the game. Thank you all for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.